Welcome back to the Fundraising Beyond Borders podcast. Today, I'm really excited to have Katelyn Baughan on. She is a nonprofit email consultant at KB Digital. And as you know, for anybody who has listened to the podcast, you know that your online digital presence is so key for international fundraising. So I'm just really, really excited to have Katelyn on just to explore everything email marketing. So welcome, Katelyn.
Thank you, Morgan. I'm so excited to be here. And how cool is it that I'm talking to you from across the world? I just think that is the amazing thing about the digital world now.
It's so cool across all different time zones. And then even, listeners tuning in. It's always so fun just to see where we have listeners tuning in from all around the world. So I really agree. It's the power of tech and bringing people together, from all around the globe. And like I was just saying, we talk so much about the power of being digital as an online or as an international nonprofit, because if you're going to find international donors, most likely you're going to find them online. And so just would love just to kind of dive in, straight away into email marketing. And it's one of my favorite subjects to talk about because it's so important. And so if you would just want to kind of start us off, Katelyn, about why is email marketing so important for nonprofits, especially when they are international?
Yeah, sure. So I started as a digital marketing manager at a nonprofit, and I started my consultancy about 6 years ago, and I still did mostly all digital marketing. So I did social, email, web, all of the things. And what I found was that most of the funds were coming in through email. So people may have been engaging on other channels, but they're converting on email. They're ready to take action on email. And so that's really where I fell in love with email. Is I felt that it was moving the needle the quickest for nonprofits. And so I decided to specialize in email and make sure that I did email really, really well. And so another reason why I think email is so important for nonprofits is because you own your list.
Yes.
So you're not on rented land. When you're on social media, you do not own that audience. Meta does, or whatever social media platform you're on. They own your audience and you're just borrowing from them. And so with email, you own your list. People are opting in to get information from you. And I think that's really special. Like, people are signaling, we want to hear from you. And so you don't feel that icky feeling when sometimes you're like blasting people on social media and you don't know if it's really what they want to hear or that they want to hear from you. On email, people are opting in and they're saying that they prefer to hear from you via email. So those are just like two reasons why. High ROI, you own your list, and it really is the cheapest way to get a message out quickly to a big audience.
That's great. And one thing that's popping up too in my head, and we might talk about this a little later too, is that for international nonprofits is they can segment their list. So if you have somebody in, if you're targeting different countries or different time zones or different cultures, whatever it might be, you have that opportunity to segment, where on social media, it's really hard to do that. So you can kind of really hone in on who you're speaking to, what type of messages you're getting across to certain type of people.
Yeah, that's a great point, Morgan. I had a client, UNHCR, and half of their list spoke French. And so we actually sent half of the email. I mean, all of the emails were sent in French and in English. So they were able to cultivate those folks in their own language. I mean, that was very challenging to do, but I think that that's one example of how you can personalize your emails to speak to your donors.
Very cool. Okay, I definitely want to get more into that because it's so interesting. Segmentation, personalization, all of that. But just for those that are tuning in and kind of just starting out, or, a lot of smaller nonprofits start off on accepting donations via Facebook and doing Facebook fundraisers, or starting an Instagram page, and they have their website and they're just starting to build up an email list. I really encourage people to, okay, you have an audience on social media. Let's get them to sign up for your newsletter and to your email list. But for organizations just starting out, how do you recommend them building an email list effectively?
I think the most effective way to do it is actually through social ads or digital ads. And you don't need to have a ton of money, because I know a lot of small nonprofits will come to me and like, I want to build an email list, but I don't have much money. You could start with $100. You could start with, $100 a month. You could start with a few $100s a month. But you start with having a lead magnet. And so a lead magnet is something of value that people will give you their email for. So it's the rule of reciprocity. Like, I'm giving you my email, and in return, you're giving me something that is of value to me. So there's a few different examples I could give you, but I just helped an animal welfare organization create a petition. And the petition performed extremely well. We built the petition. We set up an email welcome series so that when people sign the petition, they're then cultivated. We promoted those petitions through Facebook and Instagram, and we got 6,000 people, 6,000 emails in 2 months.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, with a budget of $400 a month. So it's not, I mean, that could be a lot of money, but for this small nonprofit, they were willing to, spend that. And it turned out being like $1 per lead or something along those lines. So it's definitely worth it.
That's incredible. I love that. So yeah, and I know there's some really creative ones that you'd like to think about, with lead magnets, you can of giving something of value. It can be like around education. It could be, taking action. It could be, I've done some actually another animal organization that I work with. We did a vegan recipe book, and everybody always looks forward to that every year, and they have a chef come in and promote it. And there's lots of different ways to get creative around what type of lead magnet you're putting out there. But you have to, I think what the key is, really hone in on what are your audience wanting. Yeah.
Yeah. And we actually tested 2 different lead magnets because we weren't sure what the audience wanted. We knew we wanted people who cared about animal welfare. And so we had one was the petition, and then the other one we did an animal bucket list, like fun things to do with your pet. And those ads were a lot more fun, and like the ads for the petition were a lot more pull at the heartstrings.
Right.
And the petition outperformed the bucket list like 100%. So trying 2 different things, I think, also works. Like, you think you might know what your audience would want to see, but you don't know unless you try. And so there are so many different things you could do. Coloring book pages. You could do, there's just so many options of what you could do. So just get creative and do a fun brainstorm and figure out what might work for your audience and test it out.
No, I think all of those are great ideas, Katelyn. And I think what's also really important is going in and like asking your community. Testing is great too, but just going in and asking them what would be of value to you. Maybe your already existing donors, and if those already existing donors are there, they're going to have similar values or interests to who you're trying to target. So going in and asking them of some ideas.
Yeah. And also, don't be afraid to use AI. Like, I use AI to give me 20 ideas of lead magnets for my audience and give them some prompt of like what a background of what your donors profile looks like. And they'll give you some really, really good and creative ideas. So don't be afraid to use AI for that.
Cool. I love that. Okay. So Katelyn, now we've talked about how to maybe get them there. Now they're signed up to your email list, and we want to keep them engaged. We want to make sure that it's of interest of them. And, I've seen so many nonprofits are like, okay, I email my list once a quarter. Is that enough, Morgan? Or I send out, this very kind of stereotypical newsletter where it has like 4 different columns of ideas. And then you also see sometimes call to actions. And then, just it's kind of all over the place. So when it comes to best practices for email marketing strategies, what are some ways to help nonprofits keep their list engaged?
That's a great question. I saw a shocking stat the other day from Next After that said 50% of nonprofits don't even send a thank you email after someone donates. So I would say make sure that you are really, as soon as people are either entering your list or they're making a donation, what if they're brand new, you're really engaging with them upfront and right away. And so having a welcome series is a great way to do that. You should have several welcome series that are kind of set in the background and are triggered based off of someone's action. So, for example, if someone downloads a lead magnet and they are brand new to your list, they should get a series of emails that are thanking them for the download, maybe providing them with that link, depending on how you're acquiring the email address, and then letting them know, how their donation or their participation in your organization is going to be, like giving them expectations of what they're going to get, showing them the impact of their donation or them joining your community, telling them some stories, and just really like courting them, almost like you're dating, letting them know who you are, what you do, what to expect. That is all going to really prime them for some sort of a next action. So make sure you have that set up. And some people even set up like an evergreen funnel where emails are triggering for 6 months or a year in the background. And so when brand new people enter your list, they are consistently being communicated with for a long period of time. And so, especially for small to medium sized nonprofits, you have a small team, you have limited capacity. So, what I recommend is like look through your past emails that you've sent. Are there any, is there any content that performed super well? Can you reuse it, repurpose emails that you've already sent? Because these are brand new people. They don't know what you did the last few years, and set them up for a journey to get to know you and your organization.
I think that's so important. And you're right. It is shocking how many nonprofits don't send just like a simple thank you note. And technology these days, it can just allow you to make sure that automatically happens, like you're saying. And then having that welcome series, I think that's especially important for international nonprofits because we have to work harder to build donor trust. And we have to just really make sure that we're welcoming them into the community, but also taking a little bit longer to explain things, right? So I think it's really important in those welcome series for international nonprofits is like show behind the scenes, like show them right then and there. How is that donation going to make an impact? And like really explain it to them. And that can be done through visuals or storytelling, whatever it might be. It's just using that opportunity right away to get them excited about your cause and the donation that they just made.
It's a must. And you can have multiple, like I said, multiple journeys set up and triggered depending on the person's relationship. So you have your new donors, you have lapsed donors, so you can set it up to trigger. You can set your emails journey to trigger if someone, is a year past their last donation, so you can remind them. So those things are just a really great way if you're a small team to know that these things are going to happen, even if you don't have time to do them.
Absolutely. So going past, new welcome series, how often are you recommending nonprofits to engage with their email list? Is that on a weekly, a monthly, a quarterly basis? And I know it's not usually a one-size-fits-all approach, but if we're thinking about, somebody who's just getting started, how often are you recommending nonprofits to get in touch with their donors or email list on an annual basis?
In a perfect world, I say once a week. And it does not have to be this long produced email. It can just be an update. It can be a thank you. It can be, there's so many things that are going on, like holidays. There's, months that, mental health awareness month. So I suggest and I'm actually releasing a calendar for 2025, so I can send that to you, where every week there's an idea of what you should send
Oh,
an
that's
email
so
about.
exciting.
Yeah, and so just get creative, but also strategic. So at the beginning of the year, decide what the theme of the week is going to be. You can take a social post. I mean, they recommend you post on social once a week too. So if you're already posting on social, is there a way that you can take that and incorporate it into email? Just think of ways that you can get things out quickly. But if you imagine what your inbox looks like, I want to say that people are getting on average 100 emails to their inbox a day. And that's a lot. And so you're competing with Costco, Amazon, and I always tell people, because as soon as I say that, they're like, that's way too much. I don't want to inundate
Yes,
people.
I was gonna say
Uh,
that, Caitlin. So many people come to me because I also encourage that, and they're like, "Whoa, I'm gonna way overwhelm my list." I no, that's way too much. But go ahead, tell us why.
yeah, it's a mindset shift. I think that we are worried we're bothering people, but think about the work you're doing. It's important work. We're changing the world. And that's why, I mean, you and I work with nonprofits. We want to be a part of that. Um, you're doing really important work, and people are saying they want to hear from you. So give them the updates and let the data speak. If people are not clicking and not opening, and people are unsubscribing or marking you as spam, make sure monthly you're looking at those metrics. And if they start doing that, then okay, maybe you are sending too many emails, but I promise you're not. And I've worked with organizations like Amnesty International, the Trevor Project, the National Breast Cancer Foundation. I can tell you they send emails weekly. And so I know you're a small to mid-sized nonprofit, but you can too. And that's how you're going to grow your donor base, and that's how you're going to really engage your donors. So I want to encourage people to try to send more emails.
I agree. And like you're saying, if there's a ton of unsubscribes, yes, maybe look at it. But every once in a while, you are going to get an unsubscribe, and not taking that personally, but knowing that, that person wasn't going to be a donor or a long-term supporter, and let them leave, and then start to work on acquiring those people who want to be there, and focusing on that side of things. So every once in a while, an unsubscribe is just kind of a natural thing, and that's okay.
Yeah, there's going to be churn. They call that list churn. So that's how many new people are entering your list and how many old people are leaving. Old people are going to leave. People that are not interested anymore, people that maybe gave for a campaign but aren't interested in the long-term relationship with your organization. And subscribers actually are a good thing because it's a natural way to clean your list. I would rather someone unsubscribe than be sending it to someone who is not going to engage and bring down all of my KPIs. So don't take it personally. People are going to unsubscribe, and that's not a terrible thing.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. So you just talked a little bit too about email open rates and getting people to interact with your emails. I really want to talk about that because, sometimes the nonprofits like, okay, I know I'm sending out the emails. I was weekly or monthly or quarterly, so I'm sending them out, but they oftentimes don't review the actual quality of the newsletter or the monthly emails or weekly emails that are going out. So first, let's talk about open rates. How do we kind of measure open rates? What is a good open rate for a small to medium-sized nonprofit? And then maybe talking about subject lines, because I know that can kind of help with your open rates. Or even maybe there's more ideas out there too for open rates.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about email KPIs, I don't suggest using open rates as a KPI. And the reason being that recently or within the last few years, Apple's iOS update now is inflating open rates. So they're not reliable. It's okay to compare apples to apples to see, how your open rates are doing, but oftentimes it's bots that are opening your emails and it's not actual people. So I suggest using click-through rates as a KPI to keep an eye on. So that is anybody who has opened an email and clicked on a link. in your email. So make sure there are links in your email. You are sending people to somewhere on your website, whether it's social media, to, somewhere. You want to make sure you have something that people can click on within your email. And especially for fundraising emails, you're sending them to a donation form. So click-through rates are always like the main priority for me when I'm looking at KPIs. There are other KPIs like conversion rate. That's going to be pretty important when you're talking about fundraising campaigns. So looking at how many people opened the email, clicked on it, and made a donation. So a lot of times you can get that number from wherever your donation form lives, or if you're doing UTM tracking in Google Analytics. So that's a tracking code that you put on your link that then if you set it up in Google Analytics, you can see how many people converted from that code. So there's click-through rates, conversion rates. If you ask people to reply to an email, which is a really good practice, is like ask them to reply. We want to hear from you. If you can get them to like reply to an email, that's gold. And usually you can track that as well within your email service provider. So those are just some examples of KPIs, but I also think it's important to mention that it depends on the type of email you send. So there's a lot of different types of emails. You have your transactional emails. So that's like the donation thank you receipt. You have your newsletter. You have your fundraising campaign. So like you're sending a mix of emails. You want to make sure that you're measuring those emails by email type because people respond differently to different emails. So just keeping an eye on like how are the automated emails doing? How are fundraising campaigns doing? Because fundraising campaigns typically have a lower response rate than like an engagement email. So just keeping track of the type of email and reporting based off of that too is really key.
I think that's so important. That's one of my favorite things right now is like the reply to or respond to this email and try to see how many responses you can get. And I think it's really having to start training your audience, like where to click or to respond. So it takes a little bit of patience to get them going on it because especially if that hasn't been integrated into your email marketing before, it's going to be a new thing to them. So in your, email welcome series, like training them right away. So to respond or to click or follow on social media, whatever, lead to a YouTube page or lead to a blog, whatever it might be. So like starting that right away. And then, just really trying to encourage it. And I don't know if is that, bolding things, is it underlining things within the email? Is it, highlighting different things? Is there anything that you can say to like really get people to train to click?
Yeah, so I think the best practice is to have 6 different places within your email to click. So typically, if we're talking about a fundraising campaign, for example, you have a donate button typically in the header. You have text within the body, and the text there should be multiple hyperlinks within the text. Like, donate now before midnight to get this match. And that would be highlighted, bolded, underlined, hyperlinked. And then you want to not always, but a good practice is to have a PS because what we find is that the PS is actually one of the highest clicked links because it stands out. It's like last chance to do something. So you want that to be linked and then a footer with a link. And if you have images within, those should be linked too with donate buttons, like multiple donate buttons within. So that way, but they should all be going to one place and that's your donation form. And so that way, no matter what speaks to the person, whether they are a visual person, whether they are actually reading, or if they're skimming, then it's very like obvious what you want them to do. And whether they click on the first link or the last link, it's all going to the same place. So just making it easy. I mean, people spend maybe 60 to 90 seconds looking at an email, so they're not reading the whole thing. And so there's any way you can make that link stand out, then do that for sure.
Love that. And the PS, I learned that, several years ago how important that PS statement is. And I think it's because people are just, well, and it's going to be different for everybody, isn't it? But, people love to skim. And if you're going to skim real quick, and then that PS just really stands out. So I love including a PS, especially on fundraising campaigns, telling them right then and there, what are you trying to get them to do? What is the point of the email wrapped up in your PS statement? So we're talking a lot about like tech and automation. Do you have a favorite or like some different platforms that you really like to use when it comes to email marketing and or, donation tools? Do you have a favorite tech stack that you recommend?
I think my recommendation is like use what you have. And especially we're talking to smaller, mid-sized nonprofits, like doing a migration or starting on a brand new technology or switching from what you currently have is a lot of work. I can tell you that. So if you already have something in place, figure out, is there a way that you can just step up a little bit in what you already are using? If we're talking about brand new or someone that is ready, they think they have the resources and they are ready to move, it depends on what your requirements are. So, for example, if you have advocacy related things that you want to do, or you want to incorporate text messaging, whether you know how to code HTML or not, those are some things that you want to consider. I've used MailChimp and it's been fine, integrated with like I Donate or Fundraise Up as the donation form. That works just fine. But I've also used some more comprehensive tools like Engaging Networks that has everything bundled in one. And I love that because then you don't have to worry about the integrations. They have their donation forms, they have their emails, they have advocacy, they have events, they have peer-to-peer fundraising. Like it's all in one, so that you don't need to worry about integrating with the CRM. It is the CRM. But I think it depends on like, your budget and what your staff is able to do, like what they're comfortable in. So I would say don't get shiny object syndrome. Just like try to make whatever you have work. But if you do need help trying to figure out a better tool, then feel free to reach out to me and I can give you some suggestions.
I think that's so important. And I know several nonprofits who they're on the Fit CRM in like the last 2 years. And it's just so much work trying to convert over. And like these tools, they do have a lot more capabilities, especially beyond the free version, right? So see how you can make it work better for your organization first. And if not, maybe looking into some other things. But I think that's really important because it's a lot of work remigrating people over to a new system.
It can take like 6 months to a year, and then you might lose. I've heard some horror stories of people losing donors. Like if your monthly donors signed up and all of their information is like their credit card information, that you need to have a brand new, brand new technology and integrate all of that, you can lose some people. So just be careful and, make sure you have an expert helping you with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Katelyn, as we wrap up, have you seen or any common mistakes with nonprofits that they make in email marketing and how they could avoid them in the future?
Mistakes. I think it's just like not being consistent,
Yes.
and overthinking what they're sending out. So just consistently communicate with people, make sure you're updating them. Don't be that organization who only sends an email when they want something. So some nonprofits only are emailing people when they want a donation. So you have to remember in between those campaigns, you need to prime people, build relationships, build trust before you ask for another donation. So I think that is the biggest thing, is just continue to consistently communicate, add value, and try new things.
I completely agree. We like to say 3 to 1. So 3, what I call warm touches before one ask or in between. So email marketing is such a big part of that. And so, some of my favorite warm touches are behind the scenes updates, like you were saying, thank yous, a quick video. And like you're saying at the very beginning of this conversation, it doesn't have to be like this huge email. It could be a video, an embedded video, and just say like, this made me think of you as a donor, or, whatever it might be, a short little description of what the video is. Like you're saying, do not
Yes.
overthink it, and think like, put yourself in the donor's shoes. Like, what would excite you to receive an email, and what are some fun updates and engaging updates, and thinking about how to also educate your audience. Sorry, we got a little bit disconnected. This is also the power of being in Zambia, but Wi-Fi is a little unpredictable sometimes. But Katelyn and I were just talking. I was just sharing that, just thinking about that the organization, and just how you can educate the nonprofit with your mission. So, if you're an animal advocacy organization, is like, how can you educate your audience on, like, maybe vegan is really important to you. Being vegan is really important to your organization. So maybe it's advocating them and educating them on that. So just thinking of different ways to alternate your email marketing and engaging ways. And I think what you just said is so important, is consistency. So being consistent with your audience, continuing to remember that email marketing at the end of the day is helping you build those relationships, build that donor trust, which is so important for international nonprofits. So this has been amazing, Katelyn. Thank you so, so much. Where can everybody find you?
I hang out on LinkedIn most of the time, so feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can join my email list. It's KatelynBaughan.com. And yeah, that's it.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Morgan. Have a good one.